an engineer. I'm Libby.
I'm Lexi.
And today we are going to do an episode all based on some feedback that I got when I was at work. So this episode is going to cover how to run meetings in your professional career and what you should be doing in those meetings in regards to like note-taking, body language, stuff like that. But before we get started, how was your week, Lexi?
My week was good. Okay, so I think I left off last week with like a little story about how they were trying to change the something in a project.
You had a conflict with one of your coworkers or someone you were working with.
Yes. So that has not been resolved. Little update. So it's just, I feel like at the site, everything always happens like with such short notice and they always try to make changes. There's so many different projects going on. So it has been interesting. Like it's, like I don't want to say it's good that it's dramatic, but I'm like, oh, it's a little drama in the life, you know?
Drama. We got to keep our lives interesting.
Exactly. But so it's been interesting to deal with that. So basically we solved the issue Friday. We got it all set, and then there was like a conflict Monday where someone didn't agree with it, and then so I hopped on a call real quick. We fixed it, all good. I was conducting an audit Tuesday, so I was not available, and all of a sudden Wednesday, again, they like wanted to change the timeline.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, so I was like, okay. Thursday we're sitting down meetings, we're like all trying to figure this out, and then we just extend it till next week because my boss is out of office. So I'm like, okay. I literally straight up said, I was like, I don't feel comfortable with this because I'm like, I don't know, I feel like we've talked about it so many times and it keeps getting changed, and I'm like, is it like it's an older gentleman?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you doing it on purpose or did you actually forget what we talked about? I was like, I don't know, like, I don't know. So I'm like, you know, I'm not trying to say that, but I'm like, it's been happening so many times. I'm like, okay, like, I don't know if this is like, because it keeps getting shortened in his team's favor. So okay. I'm like, maybe he knows he can push me around. Yeah,
maybe
I'm like, maybe he knows I'm such a pushover.
Card?
And I'm totally falling for it because I love old people. I love old people. So it's just not, it was very hard. Like, this was also the project I was on site every single day for in January when we started this. And I didn't need to be there, but he asked me to come, so I said yes. You know, so it's just like, yeah, okay. And even my boss was like, okay, he's not your manager, you need to stand your ground. So that has been interesting to deal with. But like I finally kind of like was not, I don't want to say snippy, but in a professional way, I was like, okay, you need to understand where I'm coming from on this standpoint. Like I completely understand from an engineering mindset, you know, that this makes sense and like it's practical to do it this way, but from a validation engineer standpoint, you know, I'll be questioned if I accept this or something.
Yeah.
So
it's your career on the line.
So far,
too.
Not resolved. Exactly. And I think I explained it well, but I was just like so fed up. At one point, I was just like so frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh. So we'll see what happens next week. Yeah. So we'll see what happens next week. But so far, not resolved. But I stood my ground, so it's good.
Question: Does at your job do your teams or like does your company use the phrase, "Are we all aligned?" Like a lot or no? Or have you ever heard anyone say that?
Not really.
Because
I've been saying that. I say that.
In every meeting, if we make a decision at my job, it's like a standard that we have to have like the question has to be posed: is everybody aligned with this decision? And I wasn't sure if it was just like my company or if it was like an industry thing that like people did when they made changes to processes.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's good for this topic too, because I was going to say like, what are some phrases you could say? That's actually good because you're not saying like, does anyone disagree? Like, are you all aligned with? And you can be like, no, I'm out of angle. I'm unaligned.
I'm actually in obtuse angles right now.
Let me tell you why I'm not aligned. But, okay, I like that actually. No, I kind of say, because again, like I said, this happens so often to the site. I'm like, you know what? I think we should just discuss the strategy, have it written, and then send it out like from the beginning. And that's what I thought we did. And then it kept getting changed. You know, the team kept asking for things again to like help in their favor. And it's just so frustrating because you're like, you don't know what the FDA is going to come in and ask about. Like, because whenever I try to do projects, I try to think of it, if I were auditing this project or if I were looking at this protocol as an auditor, what would I ask about? I'd ask about, you know, the issue that is a discussion, which is why we can't resolve it. I'd completely, you know, I don't know, maybe that's just me being like type A and freaked out of like going to FDA jail.
I've never been an auditor, but I imagine like they probably try to poke holes in what you're doing to see like what you might not be compliant with.
Yeah, so that's how I think of things, and that's why I'm like so freaked out about things, and like I don't know, I don't want to go to FDA jail.
Is that a thing?
Not for me.
FDA jail?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's not. Well, okay, unless it's something really.
Do you get like blacklisted?
Yes. So your reputation gets
you
like
do.
Well, because like they were talking about it. So I was in a pharma CDMO contract and development manufacturing site in my previous role. And then that's when I learned what 483s are. And 483s are basically observations that you get when you're not doing something up to standard. And I was like asking some older coworker about it. And he's like, oh yeah, you can like get one like connected to your name. And then everyone just like knows it. And there's like this little database of like FDA stuff. He was trying to explain it to me. I don't know if I'm like I understood correctly, but it freaked me out. I was like, I don't want my name next to any numbers. Just me. Just me and no 483s.
We can't blame you for that.
So other than that, it was good. It was very chill. Just other than that little issue. But how about you? How's your week?
It was good. Okay, before I give you an update on my week, have you ever had neck pimples? Like a deep, this is so weird, and I don't know if it's just because of stress, but I have this pimple on my neck that is literally the deepest pimple I've ever had in my entire life. And I was like doing this in a meeting, again, another like topic for today's episode. I was like touching my neck in a meeting, and I freaked out because I was like, what is on my neck? And then I looked in the mirror and it was like a giant pimple. Okay, anyway, my week has been good.
It doesn't sound too good from your stress pimples.
So on Thursday, monthly, my new product development group does this meeting where we meet with like the higher people in the company to give like a status update on the projects and stuff. And I didn't have anything to report because like just finished week 4, but my boss wanted me to attend because he wanted me to see like how all the other people like presented and the style, once again relevant for our episode today, like the style of how they handled the meeting and stuff like that. And this meeting is 3 hours long, once a month, and it starts at 6:30 in the morning. And I am so stupid.
3 hours long?
It's 3 hours.
Oh God.
I thought it started at 6 a.m. I didn't look. I should have like looked at my phone, like at my work phone when I woke up in the morning on my calendar to see. But I was just like so anxious because I was so nervous that I was going to sleep in and be late or miss this meeting. So I like was freaking out. I thought it was at 6 a.m. So usually in the mornings, like it takes me an hour to get ready. And I feel like I have to preface this by saying I'm not like sitting in the mirror doing makeup for an hour, but just because I don't know how long other people take to get ready. But when I was telling people in my office that takes me an hour to get ready, people were like, what do you do? And I'm like, okay, I get up, I like wash my face, take a shower, put on makeup, contacts, brush my teeth. That doesn't seem like a lot of things, but all that takes me like a half hour to do. Yeah. And then
it's a shower. They probably don't shower. Yeah.
That takes a while. I've got Elsie. She takes at least 10 minutes because she's like doing spins and going crazy in the morning because she's so excited to eat. Then I make my lunch, make my coffee. That's like another 10 minutes. And then like getting dressed. Even though that sounds like so simple, it literally takes me 10 minutes, I don't know, to like get a nice outfit together. So like add all that up. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that doesn't sound... Well, they also probably don't have a dog. They don't probably shower in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I personally like showering in the morning because it wakes you up, in my opinion.
It like sets me for my day, you know?
Yeah.
Like gets me ready. Okay, so anyway, I do all this stuff to get ready, so that takes me an hour. And then like on a good day with no traffic, it takes me like 45 minutes to get into work, but I knew that I had to get gas, so I left myself an hour to get to work. So that's 2 hours, okay? And I thought that this meeting started at 6, and I wanted to get there like 15 minutes early so that I could like get to my desk, like put my computer down, put my lunch in the fridge, like quickly check emails. So I got to work at 5:40. So do the math. I woke up at 3:35 in the morning for this meeting.
Oh my god. Brett was probably like, what are you doing? Where are you going?
I've definitely like stayed out until 3:30 in the morning before. I don't think I've ever woken up at 3, like, okay, 4 a.m. early, 3:30, like, no, I've never done that before. Ever.
Yeah. Okay, well, okay, this is, so talking about waking up early. Okay, so my boyfriend, I won't say his name on him since he's still blocked, lol.
Yeah.
But so when he was in the office, now he has a new job where he can work like remote and be on site, but he would wake up at 3:30 to go to the gym every single morning.
To go to the gym?
And then it was insane. And I was like, okay, damn, I have to work out now. I was like, if he's working out, I was like, okay, fine. But it was insane. I was like, I don't know how you do it. So, sorry. I digress. But
I feel like so far I'm not working out in the mornings. My company does have a gym, which is super cool. I haven't used it yet. Maybe I'll do the stairs separate during my lunch break or something one of these days. But I feel like at my internship, when my internships had, or both of them, I guess I did at the same company, had a gym, but I wouldn't start work until like 8 o'clock. So like I felt like that was feasible for me, you know, like I got there at 6, I would work out until like 7ish, and then I would use the like locker rooms at work they had showers and stuff, and I would get ready. That's feasible to me. But 3:30 to go to the gym?
Yeah.
How does he do that?
No, it was so weird. I was like, ugh. Because he would be so drained after work. He's like, I won't work out if I don't do it in the morning. And I'm like, you're just so weird.
I guess that makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's like frustrating for me because I am not a morning person. So I'm like, whenever like, you know, he'd stay over, he'd wake up so early and I'd be like, go back to bed. And I was like, I don't want to do anything right now. But
so yeah, I get up for this meeting that luckily it's only once a month, and they did switch the meeting invite, the person that organizes it, to try to do this at 7:30. So they're going to push it back an hour because they do realize how early it is for everybody. But yeah, that was a super early morning. It was 3 hours long. I brought 2 coffees to work. So I chugged one while I was driving, and then I chugged one in the 5 minutes that I was like sitting at my desk. And that kept me good for like the first hour. The second hour, oh my God, I was doing this thing where you try to keep your eyes open as wide as they possibly can be open because you don't know what's going to happen if you make your eyes look normal. So I was doing that for a little bit. And then they did have like sodas and coffee in the conference room. So like I think once I noticed I was doing that with my eyes, because that's something I do when I know I get tired, I got up and I got a coffee. But then I had and it was just also one of those days where I had meetings all the way, because all these people have been inviting me to all their meetings for all these different projects so I can like see what's going on. So like Brett was like, oh my God, you're so busy. And I'm like, well, I'm sitting in meetings, but like, I do have actions coming out of those, but it's not like, they're not all my meetings, you know, that would be really stressful if I had like 8 hours of meetings to host. But then that same day, my boss had scheduled a one-on-one with me for 4 p.m. So at that point, I don't know, I got there at 5:40 and, you know, it's 4 p.m. And he just kept being like, do you have any questions? And I was like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. My brain is like a marshmallow right now. And I don't know what's going on right now. I was like, I just need to go to bed. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? And I was like, well, I mean, I did, you know, get up really early for this meeting. And he was like, and this circling back to why I had to preface in the beginning how long it takes me to get ready, because he was like, oh my God, it takes you an hour to get ready? What the heck? And then he was like, oh, I forgot you live an hour away. And I was like, yeah. So other than that, I had a good week. I feel each day I feel more and more confident about what my duties are, but did get my first piece of feedback this week, which prompted the idea for this video. So that was also interesting, but a good way to learn and grow in my career. So taking it in the most positive mindset that I can.
Yes, as you should. And then we'll teach everyone else listening. So
hopefully.
Hopefully. Awesome. Well, I think we're all caught up. Sounds like you had a more stressful week than I did.
One meeting, that one day, it was rough. And, oh my God, and I'm trying to do this, like, time blocking thing when I get home from work to, like, be more productive. I've been posting on my Instagram stories. Speaking of Instagram, at Instagram, if you're listening, please give us our Instagram back. What the heck?
Yeah, so we want to, let's talk about that for a second. Because so we have 30 days until, like, to prove that we're not 13, which we've
until our Instagram disappears forever.
Yeah, and, like, I tried to find an email, couldn't find an email. I've been, like, I don't know, it's just so weird. Like, why, it's, like, counting down. It also stresses me out. Every time I try to log in, it's like, you have 28 days, 27, 26, 25. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're trying to get that back.
I've heard of, like, people getting banned on Instagram before. You know what I was thinking, though? And I don't remember what happened when we set up the account, but I'm wondering if when it asked for birthday, we put in, like, the day of our first episode or something. You know? Because then it would make it seem like we're not even 1 year old yet. But, like, come on.
4 months.
4 months and we're running a full-fledged Instagram account.
Oh my God, I hope we can get it back. If not, I don't even know what we would do. I'd be so sad.
Start from scratch.
Yeah, I guess so. But that
we'd be house cleaning even more. We'd be like, you guys, please follow us back. But anyway,
come back.
Yeah. Maybe come back. But that's what we've been dealing with. I just can't. I really hope by. I know we're recording another episode on Sunday, so I don't know if we'll have an update to give them. But I hope by, like, next week when we're recording, we have the Instagram back. It's just so annoying because I'm sure, like, obviously we have our own personal Instagrams that we tell people to follow on the podcast, but I'm sure there are people who follow our podcast Instagram who don't follow our personal Instagram, so they probably are, like, just have no idea. Or maybe they just didn't even
haven't noticed.
Yeah. But still. So.
Well, we'll let you guys know how it goes, but we're working on it.
We are. Before we get into it, should we read some feedback that we got from our Google form?
Yes. And so you can find the Google form in our podcast Instagram, which is still up. It's like if I can, like, look at our Instagram from my Engineering Lexi account, and we just can't log in. And also in that link is our Facebook group, which has been growing. We got, like, 20 new members there, which is so exciting.
I know.
So, yes, and you can use that group for, like, work advice, resume advice. People have posted, like, open jobs. Libby is buying people coffee on Fridays now.
Yep. If you have a 3 a.m., I'll buy you a coffee. Oh, and speaking of the Facebook group, we just started a new book. So we're doing, like, a really, really, really loose book club. No rules, just, like, having a poll every month-ish. Sometimes it's a month and a half or 2 months about professional and personal development books to read. This month, the group voted on Girl, Stop Apologizing. So I'm excited to read that book. I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, I need to get that because I keep apologizing for everything.
Well, I love that. And, like, do you ever get it when you are walking down the hallway or something and you accidentally run into somebody and you're like, oh, sorry. I've been trying to, especially with going to work every day at my new job, I've been trying to be conscious of, instead of saying, like, oh, sorry, being like, excuse me, you know?
Yeah. I know. I've been trying to also cut sorry out of my life, but it's still there. She makes appearances. She's like, oh my God, aren't you sorry? Like, it comes out of my mouth. I'm like, yeah, sorry.
I'm like,
yeah, I am.
I didn't mean to say that.
I'm like, I'm not sorry. Yes. But yes, so you can get all of that at our Facebook group.
And we are going to read some reviews now that we've received from our Google form. Like Lexi mentioned, we are hosting a giveaway. All you have to do is leave us a lovely review on Apple Podcasts, take a screenshot, submit it to the Google form. So this person says, Topic idea. Talk about the difference between an engineering and an engineering technology degree, and maybe the importance in choosing an ABET accredited program, especially if you plan on getting the PE. Love the podcast. Keep it up. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, that is definitely a good episode that I think would be cool for us to go over. If you aren't familiar, if you want to take the FE to become a professional engineer, one of the requirements before taking that exam is to have earned a degree from an ABET accredited college. ABET accreditation essentially just provides it's like a set of qualifications for a college or a program to make sure that we are meeting standards within a certain profession. So what I like to think about ABET accreditation is it's basically like if an employer were to see that you have an ABET accredited school on your resume, they can go and see like the exact curriculum of classes or courses you took. So there's like a lot of confidence in like your educational background. So yes, thank you so much for the suggestion on the topic. That's definitely something that I didn't even know about until I went to take the FE. So great feedback.
Yes, same. Because I think our engineering management degree at Miami isn't ABET accredited.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until, again, I'm like, thank God the chemical engineering one wasn't, because I would have been pissed if it wasn't. But,
yeah, imagine going through all of your
wasn't,
schooling, and then it's not, like, you can't take an exam or something that you thought you were going to be able to take.
Yeah. Not saying it's bad if you don't get a degree that's ABET accredited, but just in that case, to sit for the FE, like, I would have been very frustrated, to learn that. I would have been like, oh my gosh. But, okay. Awesome. So, yes. Good thing to bring awareness to. So, I will read out another submission. So this person says, another template I would love to see is something for internships. I'm 18 and I just got a very competitive engineering internship with the Department of the Army, and I'm very nervous. I believe... Very, very cool. Congrats, first of all.
Yeah.
I believe I am one of the youngest interns they've hired and only one of 2 women working with my new team this summer, so I'm excited but extremely nervous. Your content has been so helpful. Keep doing what you do. Okay, awesome. And I'm already like envisioning this in my head. I didn't see this before because Libby picked out the ones that we were going to read, but it would be so interesting to like maybe do like time periods and just say, hey, did you check in or did you network with like X amount of people? Because that's what I feel like as interns, like you want to get those coffee chats in. So maybe if like there was a place for like listing all the important people. Oh, you also want to save their contact information.
We need a running contact list. Gears
are turning. I'm like gonna pull out the hot pink shades and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Literally.
All right.
We could do like in the first week, in the first month, in the first like 45 days. These are like the things you should be trying to do.
Like a little checklist.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
We hear you, and we will work on the template.
Yes. We have a lot of things to work on because we also have that financial budget sheet, right?
I know. You know what? I did actually start it, and so don't worry, you guys. I am working on it. I'm trying to figure out a way to make it like, because when I created the personal finance template that I make or that I use to track my expenses, I like didn't do it with I didn't do it with keeping other people in mind. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, it makes sense to me, but now I'm like, I want to, like, make sure I can put notes or something so that if someone needs to change it or personalize it, they know how to do it. So, we're working on it.
Yes. All right. Amazing. What was that? 30 minutes of intro? That's our highest yet.
I think it really is. So, if you've stuck around until now, thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe we should put it in like the meeting or like the episode notes when we actually start the episode. Would you guys want that? Let us know.
Yeah,
do we talk too much?
I'll make a note. Around 26
Do we talk too much
minutes.
on a podcast? But I don't even think we had that long of a catch up when we didn't record for like a month.
I know.
We just have so much to talk about.
I know.
But
we just have a lot to talk about. Okay. Should we do a little preface to why I thought this would be a good topic to touch on.
Yes. Libby, what feedback did you get this week?
Feeling very vulnerable in this moment, and if you're my boss and you're listening, just know I really appreciate the feedback, because I truly wouldn't have known that I was doing this if my boss wouldn't have given me feedback. And something I'll say that I really appreciated, the way my boss approached feedback, because this is the first time with my new boss that I've, received any comments like this, is he started off our conversation telling me something positive that I'm doing, which was sending out a meeting invite. He said he really liked the format that I used in the agenda. He thought I was providing the invitees the correct information to have a productive conversation. So he started off with that, and then he kind of went into this feedback. And the feedback was regarding body language in a meeting. And Lexi, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but maybe it's because when I first started my first job out of college, it was COVID in March, so I was only in the office for 3 months, and then I went work from home for the last almost 2.5 months. I've been sitting in front of my laptop on Teams, and my previous company never had our cameras on, so my boss basically said that he just observed that in meetings that I've been attending, it seems like I'm not attentive on my face. He noticed that sometimes my eyes would wander away from either the screen that someone was presenting or the conversation we were having. He said sometimes I almost looked a little bit unapproachable just in my posture and the way that my hands were on the desk, which
RBF.
I have never thought about it. I'm always cold at work, so I probably was crunched up with my shoulders up to my ears with my fists in a ball on the table because I was just shivering in the meeting. But before we get into our advice, have you ever thought about this, Lexi, while you're in a meeting?
Okay, so I have not personally, because I am just so I nod at everything. So I guess actually I have thought about it because I'm nodding too much. I nod about I want that person to know I'm attentive, because I have had in-person meetings. My first role was on site, so we always had these meetings. My face was covered, so it kind of made it less hard
with the
to
mask.
kind of pretend. Yeah, so I was my face it didn't need to smile or anything, but I was just nodding and looking at them, and I just feel I always have my notebook too. I'm always taking notes. I take notes about everything. It's so weird. It's so my thought process is, am I doing too much? You know, am I making the person, do they think I'm making fun of them because I'm nodding too much, or but I don't know. So I guess I have thought about it, but I think in a different way, just am I being too much?
See, and this was why, when my boss told me this, I kind of was speechless, thinking back on it and really trying to be honest with how I have been presenting myself in meetings. I guess I could see where he was coming from. Because I went home and I told Brett, I was Brett, I am always taking notes. I'm always trying to be but that's what I thought I was doing. Maybe I was only doing it in my head, and that's not what I was portraying on my face, because I'm the same way as you. I will write down a note about something that it has nothing to do with me. There's no action items to come of it, but I'm oh, this could be important in the future, so I better write it down. So I didn't even realize that that's not what I was actually portraying. But I think we want to talk about first, we kind of want to break this topic into two subcategories, I guess. First, we kind of want to talk about how to host meetings in your career, because I know when you're in college, or if you're doing any sort of education or prep before you go into the workforce, you have group projects and stuff like that. But unless you have some sort of an internship, I feel nobody really teaches you how to host meetings. That's just something that you catch on, throughout the early parts of your career.
Definitely. And going off of that, again, you can host or have these meetings or be a project lead at school, but you're not meeting with people that are older unless you're meeting with a research professor, or maybe it's a professor for your capstone, which is not very often, and you have a lot of people in the same position. Sometimes when you're hosting these in the workforce or an industry, you're the only young one. Like everyone else is older maybe. So I feel like there's a lot to learn and just like to take in the beginning for sure. So I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah. Let's talk about like the very first thing when you have a meeting. So when you're sending out that invite, what does the process look like for you? I guess it also could depend on like who you're meeting with, because sometimes if it's like more of an informal meeting, you don't need as much detail maybe. But like, what does it look like for you when you're preparing for a really big meeting?
Yes. So when I'm preparing for a big meeting, I send the invite out and I always start with the purpose of this meeting is to XYZ. And it's a very short sentence from the beginning, and then I go into paragraphs. So I like to provide as much detail as possible. And the thing is, a lot of people don't look at that. Like, the things come up that I talk about in the meeting invite, in the like in person, or not in person, or like in the Teams meeting, or maybe in person. But even though I've had that happen multiple times, I still like to have that info because some people do read it. Thank you so much to the people who actually read the meeting invites. But I kind of like explain, like for this, like a recent thing I had, I explained why we have to go with one strategy. And then I just went into, per this SOP, this is XYZ. And like I referenced all these different sections. I added in screenshots of like the verbiage as well. Just because I know they're not going to go and look it up. Like no one's going to go look up SOP XYZ. So I like to add all of that in, and then just kind of like close out with some action items and just say like, we'd like to get a decision made on this. If it's like for a high priority or like that type of project, usually I feel like I don't have to send out too many meeting invites. But when I do, that's kind of what I like to do. How about you?
Okay.
Teach us about this format that your boss said that was so good.
Okay, so in my last role, I felt like meetings were a little bit more like the purpose of the meeting was to get the relevant stakeholders together to like have a discussion to figure out what to do next. So I felt like in my last role, obviously decisions would be made, but I feel like it really was more free flowing. In a meeting invite, it might only be a sentence about like, this happened on the project today, this is what we want to talk about, and that would be it. Sometimes there would be like more, I guess you could say like high stakes meetings. If I were holding like a kickoff with a customer before we started a project, I would go into Microsoft Word and I would make an agenda. The top of the agenda in the middle of the page would be the project name, and then I would kind of have like, do you remember like in school when we were writing papers, what was it called? Like in the header, you would usually put like your name, your class, like what the assignment name was, and the due date or something like that.
The headliner? Is that what it was called?
Something like that. But, okay, you know what I'm talking about,
Or the
right?
header, right?
The header.
Yeah.
So I would put those in the meeting invite, and I might, if it was a Teams call, I'd put like the call-in number, the time of the meeting, and then I would go like every 10 to 15 minutes, I would say like 9 to 9:15. This is what we're discussing, and then maybe like 3 short bullet points underneath. And that's how I would do it in my last role. This new role, something that I've had to adjust to a lot, that it's kind of been like a culture shock, I guess, quote unquote career culture shock for me, is in my new role, the purpose of meetings is like all that discussion that I was used to having in my last role should happen before the meeting. So the purpose of the meeting is literally just to make sure everybody is aligned on which direction we're going to go. So I have felt a little bit of anxiety setting up these meetings for the first time as I'm trying to feel out like people's work style and their communication styles and like just the, I guess, like overall office politics, like as I'm just trying to feel that out in my new role. Because meeting invites are so thought out, and I think that's good. But so what I've been doing is what you said. I'll put like a few sentences. This is the purpose of this meeting. And then I will put, if there's history on something we're talking about, I'll put like background or history, a few short bullet points of like what has already been done on the schedule or what the team has completed. I might put another like little section that says like open action items, list those, rough schedule, list dates of when we need to have things done, and then at the very end, and something that I'm learning in my new role is as a project engineer, my boss wants me to have a recommendation for every meeting that I host. So every meeting, in the meeting invite, I should say what I think we should do next, which I feel like is so much pressure. I know.
Yeah.
So that, and I don't know, like, again, I think some of the stuff that we're talking about could be relevant only to our companies, but maybe it's a good suggestion if you're hosting a meeting and a decision needs to be made, put in your 2 cents. And that's like a good discussion point, I feel like, because if people don't agree with you, they will tell you. They will tell you that you are wrong in that meeting, and they will say, and here's why, and this is why we should do something else. So that is how I've kind of been structuring
Interesting.
my agendas.
So how do you word that? Like, I feel like if that, if I were told to do that, I would probably word it like, I would suggest we do X, Y, and Z. If there are any concerns, I'm happy to discuss that in this meeting.
Pretty much.
Is that how you kind of... Okay.
That's what I've been doing. And it's also been nerve-wracking because, like, I feel more and more confident every day at this new job, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm, like, trying to sit here and be like, this is my recommendation. And they're probably like, who is this girl? But, I will just say, like, based on the history or based on the schedule or based on cost, this is what I recommend doing. I'd like to have this meeting to see if the team agrees or disagrees, whatever it may be.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, and okay, going back, I just realized when you were discussing, so I usually also send like a separate email out with all that information. So I feel like the meeting invite from me, it doesn't have all that info, but I don't know. Now that we're talking about it, I feel like that's the best way to handle it because you click on it and all the info is there.
Yeah.
So.
But either way, I think what we're both trying to convey here is paper trail. Ladies and gentlemen, paper trail.
Paper trail. Paper trail. Yes. Okay, so regarding adding the notes like to the meeting maker. So I've actually recently started taking, to give some background, so at my previous role, it was all in person. I had a hot pink notebook with flowers. It was so cute. Someone said, I look forward to seeing your pink notebook every time I walk in the meeting. I said, I feel so silly now.
You were like,
I was like, why did I think it wouldn't be noticed? Yeah. And so I would always just handwrite them. And now I feel like obviously we're remote more, and I think it's just way more efficient to take notes on OneNote or like, digitally on the computer. So I have been making a OneNote tab with like a table, and it has the date, like the top of it says the date of the meeting. I have one row and it's just notes. And then the bottom row is action items. And because I feel like I would always have just like a list of all the notes and everything, and it got too much for me to like look at. So I think breaking it up into these tables is helpful.
I like
but
that.
I feel like you can
having
also
a
add that in
specific
your
action item place for what needs to happen after the meeting. That's a good idea.
Yeah, so I keep that, and then I've been keeping them all by date, even one-on-ones with my boss. I'm like, this is what we talked about, I told him this, like, I don't know why. I mean, it's, like, not necessary, but just so, like, we can go back and, because he has a lot of people that directly report to him. So I would suggest that, and then also, regarding the meeting invite, maybe you can, if it's, like, a weekly meeting, you can just update that and just keep it within that, maybe, email thread.
Yeah.
I've had that. Yeah, I've experienced a PM that has done that, which has been really helpful. So.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Those are my thoughts.
Do you utilize the feature in OneNote where you can, you're in the meeting invite and you can click on the button that's like the OneNote button and it imports the meeting into OneNote?
No.
Okay, so
I will have to look into that. Yes. I didn't even know. Tell me more.
Okay, so what I do with meetings is in my OneNote, I will have a specific page that says meeting minutes, and then anytime I have a meeting, I click on that button, and it's literally just like if you use Outlook, I think it's only with Outlook. You double click on the meeting invite, and you just at the very top there will be like a purple OneNote icon. You click on it, and it'll ask you if you want to take notes for the meeting or take your own notes. If you hit take notes for the meeting, it'll like send out an email to the whole group. So that could be good. Oh
my gosh, I love that.
Or you can click take notes on my own, and then it'll ask you which notebook to put it in. So then I put it in the notebook for the project, and then I drag it and put it under the meeting minutes, and it's like a subcategory under meeting minutes. And it'll show all the participants in a meeting, and there's a checkbox next to their name, and you can check whether or not they attended the meeting. So I like that because then if it's like a meeting with a lot of people, you can go back and be like, oh, why isn't this person like remembering like what we were supposed to do? And then maybe they didn't attend the meeting or something, or maybe they did, and you can say, hey, I have meeting notes that show that on this day you attended this meeting and this is when we talked about it. So I really like that feature.
I like that. Also, going off of that, so at my second role, we had it's like a weekly meeting where people, it's not, as extensive as yours, a 3-hour one. It's like set for an hour, but it goes to like 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I sat in the room, because this was right when I started. I was in person, so I was on site just to get familiar with it. And this was the first time I've ever seen someone, like there's this individual where she sat in, she set up her computer, and then she wrote down the name of everyone who was there. And I was like, that is so smart. I was like, I've never, and because like at my previous role, I mean, everyone just kind of was always up to date. Everyone kind of always attended it. And it was also every single morning too. So it was every morning, 8:30, we would start our day off by talking about what needed to be done. But this one, since it was weekly, I don't know, so that was interesting. So that's a good point that you bring up to make sure to note who's actually there.
Yeah. Speaking of in the meeting, so when you go to meetings, do you bring your laptop and do you take notes in person, if it's an in-person meeting, on the laptop, or do you use only a notebook, or do you use a combination?
Okay, so I use a combination because I feel like I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want them to think I'm like answering like a Teams message, or like working on something else. So usually I try to bring my notebook in, but like if I'm actually editing a protocol, maybe we're talking about that. I think it's easiest, and like I explain, like before, I just say, hey, a heads up, as we're talking about these changes, I'm just gonna edit the document, just so it's efficient and I don't miss anything.
What you're doing.
Yeah. So, but that's also me being like very like overthinking everything. But honestly, I think it's the best way. Just maybe give them a heads up if you're going to be on your laptop, if it's someone that's higher up than you, or like, I don't know. Usually they're like, oh, no problem. They're like, oh, good, yeah. She's doing her job. But, so that's what I try to do. So I've kind of switched like straight away from the notebook, which I never thought I would. I was always a paper and pen kind of girl. And then I realized how much more efficient it is to type everything out. So I'm like, oh, yeah. My poor notebook is like half empty now. Like, she's neglected. She's like, your poor pens. Why aren't you using these? Yeah, I know. I know, right? So that's how I do it. How about you? Is it like, what about that 3-hour meeting? Do you have to bring your laptops in, or is it like just 100% focus, or what do you guys do?
So I should have prefaced, for that 3-hour meeting, it's like all of the different project engineers giving an update on their projects. So like once the people are giving updates, they can leave. So I just
okay.
Like, you see what I'm saying? So I won't always, but
yeah.
So if it is a Teams meeting that I'm taking from my desk, I will type my notes on OneNote and like do that thing I said where I import it into my OneNote and I can say who's been at the meeting. I was doing that in meetings, and again, I'm just adjusting to a new environment. My boss said that if you're gonna do that, it is like you said, you should give the group a heads up that you're taking notes, which I wasn't doing, and I was like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, like I didn't know. But now that makes sense, because for anyone listening, that may seem like really uncomfortable, or like at least I felt like, oh, this is so silly. Why would I tell people I'm taking notes? But like, I don't know. I feel like it's just a respect thing that I should have thought about. But again, I just didn't even realize. So now, after getting that feedback, I have been bringing my laptop to the meetings, but I keep it closed just because am so terrified that I'm going to show up to a meeting unprepared and they're going to ask me to pull something up on my laptop and I won't have my laptop. So always bringing that. And then I still do take the written notes in my notebook.
Yeah. And just like if anyone is wanting to take notes on their laptop, what I usually say, I kind of just try to make a joke out of it. I'm like, hey, just a heads up, I'm going to be taking notes. Don't want you to think I'm doing anything differently. Haha. Yeah. You know, like, and everyone's just smart. Like, okay, not necessary. But I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I think of so many scenarios in my head. I'm like, oh my God, they think this, they think that, la da da. And I'm like, I'm just going to say it. Like, I think I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, I'm just going to stop thinking about it and just make it clear. I'm like, I don't care if I think it's weird, you know?
Well, and, you know, it's probably better to make it clear and feel, like, weird that you're making it clear rather than get into a situation like me where they were like, oh, by the way, like, don't do that. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. And then I guess another thing that regarding, since we were off the laptops, that I wanted to touch on is this maybe is a given, but if you're in a meeting and you're new to the corporate world, especially, just like don't be on your phone. And also, I try to flip my phone so that the screen is like on the table so that my phone isn't like flashing with notifications. I know that might seem like a given, but you know, sometimes people, I don't know, don't know.
I have a funny story actually about that. So also make sure your Apple Watch notifications are silenced, because I like just had gotten an Apple Watch, and this was with my previous team, my first team, so everyone was kind of the same age. We were all very like, it was a very good working environment. Like I loved them. So it kept I kept getting texts. I don't know who it was.
Oh no.
And I was just like pulling it up, and like I was like, I have no idea how to turn this off, and like everyone was laughing. I just took my Apple Watch off, and then he came up to me after and he's like, okay, I can teach you how to do that. I was like, I'm so sorry, I just got like so it was funny. Like it was fine, like it was a good team, but it was just funny because I was like, I don't know what to do. It's like
ding,
I was
ding,
like
ding.
Yeah, I was like, the volume is down, guys, and they're like, I was like, it was, I don't know, it was fine, it was like not a big deal.
I
but
like can
make
already
sure
feel
your Apple
my
Watch
like
notification,
my heart rate going up and like adrenaline, and I'm like, how do I turn this off?
Yeah. But amazing. I feel like we're switching from like hosting a meeting to also attending meetings. So
yeah,
okay. It'll be a compilation in between. We'll go back and forth.
What do you do? I guess we didn't even touch on it. What do you do when you try to, I guess, facilitate a conversation with group members? How do you like approach a meeting, and how do you break it up?
So I kind of just like the same way with the email. So I kind of what you said as well, like with giving the background, I kind of explain, okay, so this is the situation, this is what we need to solve, this is the requirements, and you know, this is where the disconnect is. The nice little word, the disconnect. But so then I open it up, and you know, if we need to hear from the engineering team, I say, hey, can you speak on this? And usually I like to give them a heads up, and I kind of say before the meeting, I'll say, hey, I'm going to ask for your input on this because, again, I'm not too familiar with it. So that's kind of how I like to facilitate it. I like to give all the background information from the beginning because I feel like that minimizes the amount of questions you get. And just like if there's any miscommunication, it just like could be avoided because one of the sites I'm working on, actually, it's a merger. Or not a merger, an acquisition. So we acquired them. They have different procedures, and we have to follow different corporate procedures. So the one question I get, and like how I mentioned where I put in these SOP like screenshots, they're like, why do we have to do this? We've never done this in the past. So I have to go back and explain, I completely understand you guys haven't done this, and I understand like what the criticality of the device or the equipment is, but per our procedure, we have to do this. And that's kind of, again, where that unresolved issue that I talked about in the beginning, that's where the disconnect, LOL, at the little corporate jargon, that's where that disconnect is coming in, because they're like, this is unnecessary. And I'm like, I completely, as an engineer and as a normal person, I completely understand, but as a validation engineer, I cannot, need to put my foot down. So that's kind of how I like to approach it. I just like to give all the information. And I feel like a lot of people probably think I'm very long-winded, like with my emails and like maybe the way I explain or like set up things, but I'm like, they have all the information.
Yeah.
So I can sleep at night. I'm like, you guys have it all. So now I, feel better. But okay, how about you? See, I talk about how long-winded I am, and like you ask one thing and I talk about it for like 10 minutes.
No, well,
but I guess that's what you're supposed to do on a podcast, I guess.
Yeah. I was going to say, I have, in this new role, it's actually really cool. I have a guy mentor and a girl mentor, and they're both like in my role, but doing different products. Anyway, I was talking with my girl mentor, and I kind of brought up how I was talking in the beginning of this episode, how like my new role, everybody is always so prepared, and it kind of was freaking me out because I was like, I don't know how to be prepared when I don't know what I'm talking about. And she was like, don't worry, like you will get it. She gave me some advice that kind of goes along with your like long-winded thing. She was like, every time I host a meeting, even if it's like the same group of people on the project every week, whatever, she likes to open up the meeting by talking as if someone brand new who has never attended any of the meetings is sitting in the room. So she's like, everybody is really busy on our day-to-day. We all have meetings that we're running to and from. We're all like catching up on emails, doing different things. So she's like, I just like to take like the first 5 minutes, get everybody's minds kind of like back on the same project, and then we go from there. So I think that's a good thing that you're long-winded.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, maybe that makes people avoid asking me questions, which is good.
Yeah, you're like
I don't get bothered
answering them.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get bothered. It's like, they're like, oh, we're not gonna go and ask her this question because she's gonna talk for like 30 minutes.
They're like, fine, time for that.
Let me do my work. It's fine. But no. So I think that's always I like to offer again, and I know we talked about this in a previous episode. Like, I like to talk about everything I've reviewed. Like, if I'm emailing my manager, hey, I have this issue. I've looked at all of these procedures. Do you have any recommendations for what to look at before? Like now he knows not to suggest that, and then we avoided like an hour waiting of emails
back and forth,
him responding, and then me saying actually I did do that, haha, he. So yeah. But
in regards to how I host meetings, I in my previous role, kind of like going back to customer meetings, I just always would like to, even if it was a customer that I had worked with before, I always liked to open the meeting with like introductions. So I would be like, okay, even if we all know each other, like let's just do introductions briefly. And it was always like a Teams call, whatever. But I think it's important if you're going to do that on a team, make the order known, because then people just are waiting, especially if it's on Teams and people are just all on mute and then someone goes to speak and then someone else is also like, and then it's like awkward. So I would be like, my name is Libby. I'm the project manager for this outage. Next, we're going to have Tom, Joe, Steve, and Linda speak or whatever. So that way, like, an order was known.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I've never experienced that, nor had that. Well, I guess that's the same thing as experiencing it. I've never had someone do that in a meeting. So that's a good point, because you always get those like weird, like, again, okay, this is actually something I can talk about, which is a different point that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, you always get that weird, can I talk or can I not? So this kind of goes along, or did you have anything else on that topic?
No, I don't think so. Kind of like exactly what you said, like give the background. If it's a high stakes meeting, I will maybe not practice, but I'll just have and not a script, but I'll have an outline. If I don't have an agenda to go through, I'll have an outline of like what I want to talk about. And like you said, just give the background, be thorough, try to anticipate people's questions before the meeting so that when they are asked, you know the answer. Because I think in a meeting, especially if you're hosting, it can kind of look bad on you if every question that someone asks, you're like, oh, I don't know, but let me check. Which, and again, that's a good thing if you can say, I don't know, but let me check. But I think if you can try to anticipate some of those beforehand, that could also be good. But that's all I had to say.
I do like, yeah. Okay, but this is just going back to like the speaking Zoom thing, the weird talking over people and Teams. So I've noticed a difference between my engineering meetings versus this. I talked about how I joined that women's resource group, where we're trying to work on that mentorship program. So with these engineering meetings, I am like, in meetings with a lot of men. a lot of the times it's people asking us at different sites for, advice. So we're kind of acting as consultants. They're like, okay, if we want to validate this, what do we have to do? And the meetings are very quick, no chit chat, it's very clear, and it's clear like who's talking. Like they ask us and we just answer.
Yeah.
And so I had this actually mentorship group meeting. This was our first meeting. I'll talk about this in the update on Sunday since we're already like so, far into the, it's like an hour in. We're like, we still have another whole topic. Yeah. So I'll talk about that more, And it was so hard to find like a lull to speak in, and I just was not used to it because and it was like I was like always talking. It was like so much chit chat. It was like an hour meeting, and it was just like with people who were not from the engineering background, and it was very, very good. Like I'm not complaining, but I just was experiencing such like a weird like when different. Do I talk? Yeah, and because we were discussing the mentorship program and like kind of brainstorming. So like versus these engineering meetings where it's like it's very clear what the issue is. It's we have a solution in mind. We just again need to make sure is everyone aligned.
Is everyone aligned?
So it was just so interesting. Like, and so I wanted to talk about that. That was a point, like the difference between these meetings. So in my opinion, a lot of these engineering meetings and a lot of like the meetings that relate directly to my role are very quick, very direct, and then like this extra improvement project I'm doing, it's just like crazy to see the difference, Yeah. Have you ever like experienced that? Like maybe how are your PM, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how were your PM meetings different from your new development meetings besides like the intention of the meeting? I know you talked about that, but is there any other difference?
I definitely agree that like I don't know, the feeling in more of that heavy duty like manufacturing setting was a lot more loose, like a lot more laid back. And then this meeting, I kind of what you're saying with like different styles of people. And like the way people host meetings. I've definitely had meetings with like our marketing team that like you said is like a very different vibe than like engineering meetings that I'm used to. And in my previous role, like I never really interfaced with marketing or like people like that at all. So that has definitely been like a learning curve for me to kind of like, I don't know, just interact with different people or like also, different departments host meetings in different ways. So like our department in new product development, that's kind of like how I've been touching on. That's kind of like the outline that people try to host meetings. But like we work with other engineering departments that they don't host meetings in that way, or I don't know if it's talked about or not because I'm not in that group. But, it's just like a different vibe, like talking with different people, different groups. And yeah, like you said, just trying to figure out what's appropriate and like when you can contribute, but also maybe when you should just be quiet. I don't know. Like I've had meetings, I don't know if you've encountered this, but I've had meetings with people before where either they're new to the team or they're just like new to the organization in general, and they're really trying to contribute to a meeting, but it's almost being more disruptive because they're asking questions about things that like have already been vetted out or like the team has already discussed or like something like that, and you just want to be like, oh, can you please be quiet? Like, we're trying to have a meeting, but oh my god, there's a little bug in here.
Ooh, what kind
Sorry.
of bug? It's okay.
Oh, I killed him!
It's going towards the ring light.
It was! I killed him on my 401k retirement plan folder. Die! Die on my future! Oh my god, that was terrifying. Okay, anyway. Sorry for that interruption.
That's okay. But yeah, so basically going back to what you said about like that Teams thing, yeah, it was very weird today. I was like, but again, so they're like, oh, Lexi, do you have anything to input? Because I'm sure they noticed I was being kind of quiet, or maybe they noticed I was unmuting myself and then muting myself again. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of weird to get used to. But okay. Yeah. Oh, and then okay, so there's so many things that I want to talk about. But going off of your comment about like the new people in the meetings. So if you're new to a company or a team, I would suggest for the first few weeks, don't try and make any huge improvements. So I think
I agree.
Just try and understand the process. There's like some book that some director told me, because he was trying to meet with every team separately to understand what their projects, what was going on. And he was reading this one book and it said, don't make any drastic changes within 90 days of, being in that role. And that company has had a lot of turnaround with these higher ups, and he's still there, over a year later. So that maybe, helped. But that is one thing, again, don't try, like if you're new, people will ask you, do you have any questions? I usually like to keep a list, like as the meeting, and then I try to find like someone that is not super intimidating and be like, hey, can I follow up with some questions, or do you have time, or can we put some time on the calendar? I didn't want to disrupt the meeting, but I did have some questions that arose that might have been addressed earlier. So I think that's a good way to word it. But
that is good. Like, definitely, I think scheduling a one-on-one time with someone in the meeting, your manager, your mentor, or just a friend in the meeting, or just literally anybody, because I think as someone who has attended meetings where it is kind of like taken over by maybe a new team member asking these questions that have already been discussed, it can be frustrating. You're sitting there, and of course you want to be respectful to everybody on the team, but I think that is something good to keep in mind. Like you said, keep a list, follow up with someone after. If it is something critical that maybe the team forgot to talk about and you brought it to someone's attention, that's, that'd be a good thing. They'd be like, oh, okay, well, thank you so much, Lexi, for bringing this up. We actually hadn't even thought about that. Maybe we should regroup or something like that,
Yeah, definitely. And going off of that, actually, one of my first project kickoff meetings, I met with someone who, I was new to the company. I met with someone separately about it. And I brought a list of questions, just general, just getting the bearings. And I told her ahead of time, I said, I'm so sorry, I apologize in advance, but I have a lot of questions that are just very basic questions. I'm new to the site, I'm new to the company. It would be great if you could help me understand. And she's like, no, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like you do really well in this role because you thought about it before, you're well prepared with all these questions. So that was actually some bonus points that I got for that. But that's what I would suggest. Again, like you mentioned, maybe how to relate this to meetings. If it's a new meeting, have your list of questions. If you're hosting the meeting, kind of think about what questions might be asked, have that answer. But yeah.
Yeah, and I also want to say real quick is, even though if you've listened to this whole episode, even though we might seem like really confident, at least I can speak from my experience. I just hosted a meeting last week talking about something like a piece of test equipment that I've never used in my professional career, and I had to lead the meeting, and I was trying to pose and challenge questions to the team. I didn't even know, I don't know, it was so outside my comfort zone. And even though we can sit here and tell you all these things, just know that I was in this meeting and I was stuttering as I was trying to host it, and I literally got stage fright. I've never gotten stage fright on a meeting before. I don't know if it's just because it was way out of my comfort zone or what, or if it was all on Teams and I could just see everybody's little icon faces staring back at me. But there was a point in the meeting where I didn't know what to do next, and I just was and I just had to say something because I didn't know what to, so just to provide a little piece of that, as well as I'm still learning in my career, and
yes,
I'm not
we're all learning
meetings yet, but these are just things that we've noticed in our few short years.
Yes. Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about was the best way to answer a question you don't know the answer to. So
that's a good one.
You kind of briefly talked about it, how it might not look too good if you always do you have another moth?
There's another
Sorry,
bug in here.
Oh no, did you leave a window open?
That's what I'm wondering. Whatever, it's on the ceiling.
You're not very attentive to the meeting right now. I need your
I know,
eyes.
maybe this is where this is what's happening in my meetings. I see bugs on the ceiling. Okay, I'm so sorry. We're talking about what to do when you don't know how to answer a question.
Yes. So I think, so I've actually answered, and I think I maybe talked about this once before. So I just straight up, I was asked a question on a meeting. I was the only one for my team. I didn't have anyone to back me up or support me on this, and I was fairly new. They was asking about like a water system validation, which I was not too familiar with, which is stuff, it's very important. Water system validations are very important. Make sure your site has one. But but they asked me a question, and I just straight up said, I'm not too familiar with this, but I can find you the answer. And that person actually said, thank you so much for being so transparent about it. And I was like, it's better to be transparent than lie because it's more efficient. But I know that you made a comment and you were like, you don't want to say that too often. So I feel like, if there are like a row of questions, 5 questions, and you're like, I'm not sure what, the answer to this, I feel like at that point, maybe it's time to take a step back and say to everyone in the meeting, maybe we don't have all the individuals that are needed or all the important stakeholders involved in this project that are able to talk about this information. So maybe you could bring it that way and say, let's kind of talk about who needs to be involved if I don't know the answers to all these, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think that's a great way to handle it. And, I mean, I think it's definitely different because, like, I think you can certainly host a meeting where you don't know a lot of the answers, but you still seem very prepared. And, people, and like you said, as long as you say, I'm just going to be completely honest, I don't know the answer, but I can find that for you. And I think it's important if you can give a due date. So I don't know the answer, but I will find it out for you, and this is the dates that I will have an answer back to you. And if you still can't have an answer by that date, or if it's like fast approaching, I just recommend like communication with whoever the person was that you're supposed to deliver the information to. Just make sure they're in the loop, and maybe a few days in advance to the due date. If you still can't figure it out, maybe you could always ask too, like, hey, I'm still having trouble figuring this out. Do you have recommendations of who I can talk to that maybe I haven't talked to already, or something like that, or where can I go to find this information, or try to help me locate it better?
Yeah. Yes, and it happens, and we all don't know the answers, and we're all just trying to figure it out. Don't you worry. But I think, again,
professional problem solvers.
Yeah, just thinking about what questions and what concerns and maybe what pushback you might get ahead of time, I think that would, be very helpful to kind of put yourself in a situation where you have answers to all these different scenarios. So. And a piece of
advice that my boss gave me, or my mentor, or someone in my new role gave me, because I was asking them, I was like, I feel like I want to be prepared for these meetings, but I don't have the experience yet to know what questions people are going to ask. And my mentor was like, just ask yourself the 5 whys. Who, what, where, when, why. And sometimes how much. And typically those are going to be like the questions that people are going to ask. People are probably going to ask what people are working on the project, or who someone to follow up with is, maybe what procedure they need to use, how they need to document a process, how much something's going to cost, what the schedule is going to be, what does this decision impact. So I think if you can just try to sit down and ask yourself who, what, where, when, why before you host a meeting, even if you don't know those answers, that can at least give you a little bit of guidance on what people in the meeting might ask you.
Who, what, where, when, why. 5th grade English.
The 5 whys.
Going back to our roots. But again,
that's right.
That's all it is, right? Just go to the fundamentals. We're all just using, the ideal gas law to figure these things out. I'm just kidding.
PV equals NRT, my man.
PV NRT.
Okay, I don't think I have anything else. I know we're gonna kind of split this up into the 2 parts, but I think we kind of talked about all in one, like hosting meetings, also attending meetings, body language, note-taking, agendas, meeting organization, meeting style. I don't know. I feel like we could probably have another episode about meetings. I just freaking love talking about professional things.
Yeah. I think that's all we wanted to hit.
Yeah.
I know we didn't really split it up well, but I feel like it all, it feeds off of each other. Like, you're hosting a meeting, you're sitting in a meeting, it's the same thing, kind of. So yeah.
Hopefully this could be helpful. I feel like I wish I would have had something like this to listen to before starting the first day of my internship or the first day of my career post-grad or whatever it may be. So if you guys like this, we would really, really appreciate it if you could share the podcast with your friends, share it with classmates, share it on your social media, tag us. Someone posted, reshared our podcast, I think it was last weekend or something, and they tagged us, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this.
I know, that was so nice. Yeah,
it was so
definitely
nice.
I hope it helps. I feel like just hearing how people word things, in itself helps, because like one thing in my first role, it was always like, how do I word this? Can you give me an email review? Can you, review my tone? Am I saying this correctly? Or what should I have said? Or how could I have better presented this? And I just think, I just need like a list of these. And I think that's what we wanted to do, like getting these email templates for like different situations. And like, we have a lot of things in the works, guys.
We do.
We
do. All right. Well,
yeah.
Where can, I guess before I say where can they find you, is there anything else that we need to touch on before we wrap this episode up? And we talked about the Facebook group, we talked about the Google form, we talked about sharing the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, we would love it.
It would be great. But yeah, no, I think that's it. I don't have anything else. All talked out. I'm all talked out on this Friday night.
Lexi, where can they find you on social media? You are growing an army on TikTok, let me just say.
And I love them all. Yes, we hit like, I don't know, like maybe 550 right now, which is crazy.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
I'm like, hello all of you.
Oh my gosh.
But it's actually so fun. Like I've been doing like vlogs too, like, doing my, and I'm like, I'm so excited to like be able to look back on this maybe in a year and see what I was doing and like kind of compare.
Yeah.
So I'm like, even, maybe I don't grow as big as you, but I'm like, it's just kind of fun. Cause like, I think I finally
just, like,
got
showing
over
your kids. I've always wondered that. I'm always like, I wonder if TikTok's going to be around when we have kids and my kids can go back and see their mom crying about her career change.
Oh my God. I just commented on one of your TikToks. I hope you don't get mad. I hope people like, because I was just like, it was like you crying. It was the first thing. It's just tears on your face.
I have like 9 videos of me crying at this point.
And I just started laughing. I'm sorry. Like, not in a bad way. Like, I wasn't making fun of you. But I just know what this is about. And
I see them in my... I think I saw your comment. And you're like, I already know what this could be about. Because I will go to post it. Because it has been like 6 weeks since I took all these videos. And so I go watch them and I just laugh. And I'm like, oh my God. But, okay, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Engineer Lexi on TikTok and Instagram. How about you? Where can they find you and cry with you? Just kidding.
You can come watch me cry. You can come watch me cry tears of the river on TikTok and Instagram at Libby B on the label. And come follow us, you guys. It's a fun time. Usually we have our Instagram and TikTok. Well, we still have our TikTok for my best friend's an engineer. We have our Instagram, but it's down. Our YouTube is BFE Podcast, and then we have our Facebook group too. But hopefully, keep us in your prayers and thoughts as we get our Instagram back.
Yeah, I hope we can save it. I would love to do that. I don't know. We'll see. If not, we should probably take a screenshot of what it looks like now and repost all of those things.
Yeah. Sad.
So.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, this meeting is adjourned.
Cut. Okay.
That's how you close your meetings, guys. That's how you close them.
Yeah.
This meeting is adjourned.
You slam the gavel on the table and you say, meeting adjourned.
Kidding, don't do that. Say thank you so much for your time. Okay. Ready?
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for attending our meeting.
I feel like there's a lag because I can kind of hear myself in the background, so I don't think this
there's definitely a lag.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I'm Lexi.
See, there's a lag. Okay. I just have very low expectations for this outro. We're prefacing it. There's a lag. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm Lexi.
And I'm Libby.
And thanks for listening to my best friend's an engineer.